Okay, so we're now into tutorial 4. So thank you guys for sticking with me, and hopefully this continues to be at least moderately helpful. But okay, let's go back and look at the overview here. So with tutorials 1 and 2, we pretty much gave you guys a good overview, and you guys are really probably very experienced with a lot of the capabilities and features of Winlink Express. And then last week we started looking into, okay, now that we know how to compose a message and we know how to attach a photograph and crop it and go look things up in the catalog and do all sorts of stuff using Telnet and connect it directly to the internet, let's see what we can do about hooking it to a radio. So last week we looked at kind of some simple configurations of how to hook your Winlink computer up to a radio. And then so this morning we're going to be looking at a little more broader options of how to hook up your Winlink computer to a radio. So we'll kind of look at different ways of doing that and kind of steer you in different directions depending on hopefully the homework that you guys did last week or over the last week in doing research, kind of what would be is unique to your particular radio. So what we'll be looking at is looking at the various sound modem software and the sound card to radio interface options, and then identifying some additional resources for additional information should you need it. I have kind of, I don't say necessarily a disclaimer there on the middle of the right side saying that there is an incredibly large variation of different radios out there. Luckily, at least some of the newer radios have already kind of started thinking about how to support kind of digital communication. But if you have an older radio, you're looking at a little more diving a little more detail on how to get it to work with Winlink. So what I've done here with this tutorial in terms of trying to make this a more manageable problem or manageable issue to discuss, I'm kind of finally focusing on kind of the more commonly used sound card software and sound card radio hardware interfaces. Primarily for the reason just to make it easier to understand, and also that's where most of the resources out there you can find more information as such. So that's kind of today's focus. And then next week, I mean in 2 weeks, in tutorial 5, we'll look at different radio options. We'll look at other ways of communicating other than just simple packet, and definitely talk about other Winlink operating modes. And that will pretty much come to the conclusion of this tutorial series. At the end of that, I'll kind of open it up to you guys and see, you know, what other additional information you guys are looking for, and also possibly talk about maybe setting up some peer-to-peer sessions so you guys can have options of actually sending Winlink messages over the air through the radio. Okay, but before we start, I thought this was kind of interesting. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely a little take on your algebra background with X and Y. Yeah. Okay, so this is a familiar figure I've shown previous tutorials, and so kind of using this as a review. We've definitely looked at Telnet and connecting through the internet, and last week we focused on then moving on to using VHF, UHF, and finally using packet capability. And we addressed last week hooking directly up to a radio that does have some type of digital interface built in, one of the newer radios. So this week we're going to start talking about how to hook up Winlink to a radio that isn't really made to work in the digital age, I guess is the best way to put it. So we're now looking at, again, still focusing on simple packet type of communication, primarily just because it's already built in and it's kind of the lowest common denominator across the different WinLink operating modes. But we'll generally use some type of sound modem software that's installed on your WinLink Express computer, and then some type of a hardware sound card interface that bridges between your computer and your radio. And you'll see that once these the sound modem software and the sound card interface is working, it is applicable to other capability as well. Obviously, if you wanted to use the VARA encoding, you still need a sound card interface, and likewise, if you're using any type of HF setup, some of those configurations also use sound card interfaces as well. So the next chart here is, I had included this in last week's briefing as a backup, and I'm mainly focusing on the left side to try to explain a little at a high level what's going on. And basically, it's the easiest way is just to think about that your computer talks and works digitally, whereas your radio primarily just uses sound and analog type connections. So you need some way of taking that message you want to send that's in essentially digital, ones and zeros, and converting that into some type of analog tones that's compatible with your radio. At the same time, your radio has this push to talk function, and so we need some way to kind of automating when to let the radio know that you're actually going to be moving from receiving mode to a transmitting mode. So that's basically kind of at a high level what we're needing to try to do here. The stuff on the right side is kind of not really applicable to WinLink per se. It's from an older, if you had older version or older type of just general packet type of communication, more generic type of communication. But that's really kind of what I was the message here is you're converting from a digital to a more analog voice tone type of communication. Okay, so what my recommendation here is for you guys to take that link at the very top, that winlink.org, that basically there's a quick setup guide for sound card packet to UHF kind of Windows. It said download this document. This document is about 20 pages, and there's it goes through nice, very slow kind of detail of what is needed, and it provides a couple of different options. Though you'll see here that the option 1 setting is for a SignaLink type of sound card interface. Though it does talk about other types of radios, but the SignaLink type of option is probably most applicable to radios that are more the older ones or that don't have any type of digital type of interface. But basically, it'll walk you through downloading the sound modem software and going through and configuring it, as well as configuring the SignaLink interface. So this is kind of the gist of today's presentation, is kind of going through what's in that in high level detail. So I guess any questions at this point? I guess unmute and okay. So a key to this is, again, the sound modem software. So here's the web page you go to, that it's by UZ7HO, and scroll down to the bottom of the page and you can see there's a number of downloads. I did this screen capture, excuse me, screen capture probably a couple months ago, so maybe there's newer updates. But download the sound modem software and the user guide, and basically install that, and it will, like I say, the quick guide that you download will explain, you know, what to do once you install it and how to go through and do settings. This is some of the examples of some of the settings that need to be done within Winlink over there on the left, in terms of, you know, pick the TNC type is a KISS, and the packet TNC model there, and so forth, different settings. And basically what you're going to do is tell Winlink that there's a software program built into the computer. You can see that there's a link there that's C:/RMS Express class sound modem. Basically, you're telling it to go off and use that software link to launch the sound modem software. And then within the sound modem software, there's a number of settings that this may be kind of trial and error in terms of some of the settings, in terms of how much gain or thresholds you'll be setting. But these are generally example settings that would be needed to configure it. And again, more of this is outlined in the guide. And then the other, for the sound radio, the radio interface, again, this is a link to the SignaLink unit. Again, this is probably one of the more popular ones. Again, a lot of the documentation out there supports the SignaLink. It's also can be used for other applications other than just Winlink. But you basically go to Tigertronics and use that to identify which model is set up for your particular radio that you want to use. It'll come with cables appropriate for your particular radio as well. I've found that probably the cheapest way to purchase this is generally just ham radio outlet. HRO pretty much has generally good prices, and generally most of them are in stock as well. But I know that there are options out there other than SignaLink, but again, I kind of maybe generally recommend using the SignaLink because of the amount of documentation out there, but there are other options as well. I know there's a couple people interested in the MobiLinkd unit, and it can work fairly, work similar to the SignaLink, also offers some additional capability that the SignaLink doesn't. Also, the Cantronics is kind of the tried and true. It's been around for a long time, maybe a little more pricey, but a little more capable in certain areas as well. So.
And Scott, one question,
okay,
or one point on the SignaLink. When you buy the SignaLink, you have to put some jumpers in place to use it. You have to basically open up the box and install some jumpers. And the Tigertronics has actually pre-made jumpers. It's like a small circuit board that fits into where the jumpers go for specific radios. And I would strongly suggest people do that unless they're comfortable with basically opening up the hood and installing wire jumpers. There's, I think, probably 3 or 4 of them required. It's in my mind a good investment to get the pre-made jumper board. It just fits in there and you can set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about the jumpers being faulty or coming out or that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is my understanding. Good point, Ted. That's key. That's kind of, to my understanding, that's why you would specifically order a configuration of the SignaLink specific to your radio.
Yeah, the jumper modules are listed down on the right column there
Yeah.
for the particular radio. So you need a cable and an optional jumper module.
Right, right. But you also bring up a point here, is that if you had multiple different radios that you were thinking about using with Winlink, what you would do is buy one unit, but then buy maybe additional jumper modules for other radios that you may want to use with Winlink.
Right, cables and jumper modules.
Yeah, right. So yeah.
And trust me, for the $10 that it costs you to buy a jumper, way worth it.
Yeah. You generally, the price of the unit with the jumper and the radio, I mean the cable, it's about $120, $130 with tax and weather shipping and everything. And then the jumper modules are like with $10 or something like that. So so that's that option. But good point, Ted. Thanks. I guess any other questions or comments at this point?
Well, just to clarify on the same issue, when I ordered mine, I told them what radio I had, and it came, the jumper module was already pre-installed for that particular radio.
Correct. Yeah. That's basically when that second column there, the SignaLink USB, when you order that particular model, it comes with the radio cables and the jumper module for that specific radio. Yeah. And I'm showing a one-page captured here. I think when you go look at that product guide, it's got to be at least 8 or 10 pages long. There's literally pages and pages of different radios that they support. So, okay, any other questions or issues? Okay, okay, and then basically at this point, additional info, if you want to, I would highly recommend signing up for the Winlink group at the groups.io. You basically just go to the HTTPS groups.io and sign up, create an account, and add whatever groups you want. Actually, I'm going crazy. I think I have 7 or 8 groups right now that I'm members of. But it's a great way of catching up on what's going on within Winlink, and also a good place to post some general questions or specific questions. Another great resource I found is the Greater Manchester, that's Manchester, I think Massachusetts Areas group. They have a good series of tutorials on different communication modes and stuff like that. So it's just another great resource I found on Winlink. And just more recently, Scott MacGillivray, who's on the Winlink development team, did a presentation on different ways of wiring up your particular radio. He goes to great lengths in talking to the actual pinouts of the different type of connection on the back of your radio or on the side of your radio, and how to configure that and send it, interface it to your computer. And it's a lot more detailed, and a lot of it is really for the hardcore guy, but it's there, and the presentation is there listed as well. So there's a great way of learning more. So that's pretty much my kind of the summary here is mostly pointing to that guide. I say download the quick setup guide and review it. And you can for the download for the sound modem software is free. Set it up to configure out with your setup as needed. Acquire the sound card to radio interface and hardware. Connect it to your radio and try sending a message, or at least try communicating. And this is kind of what getting back to Bob, your concern is kind of like, okay, now that we've got this, how can I test it out? And I feel your pain, because I know where I live, I've never been able, except for the Loma Ridge, which is still down, the OC Races gateway is still down. With exception of that, I cannot see any gateway in Orange County. So I always have to go mobile, and you can see a picture of me set up here to go mobile to try to access any of the gateways. So that's kind of my kind of recommendation is, and generally, because at least my main focus is emergency communication, going mobile isn't a big deal. I pretty much configured all my hardware and my setups to support going mobile. But feel free to send me an email if you have any problems or questions going through this. I suspect it will be a kind of a trial and error approach, and unfortunately, it's even made more frustrating because we don't have a gateway that you can use. So this is the kind of the aggravating part of trying to get going on Winlink with your computer. I mean, with your radio. So that's pretty much it. I guess any questions? I know this was pretty brief.
Hey, Scott, I was just gonna show people the difference in size between the SignaLink and the MobiLinkd card. So, you okay with that?
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, this is the SignaLink card, and this is the MobiLinkd card. So you can see there's a pretty big difference in size. Capabilities aside, this can be, the MobiLinkd can be strapped with a rubber band on the back of your HT. It's about the size of a small cell phone. This one is a little bit more clunkier in terms of trying to go mobile with. So I just wanted to let everyone know the the difference in the sizes here.
Good.
I have a question.
Yeah, Dave?
I've got the SignaLink modem. I've got the plug-in module. I read somewhere the radio that I plan to use, which is a Kenwood 731. The data point is the microphone jack.
Right.
And there apparently is a power pin included in that jack. And I just a little bit worried about, I assume that I can just plug the module in and I should be good to go and not have to worry about it, right? It's been contemplated by the cable, the cable and the plug-in module.
Yeah, so I guess your concern is if you're putting power through that connector, is that a risk to the radio? My thoughts here is, I don't have direct experience with this, but my initial thought is, if that's essentially the cable that whatever you're using is essentially what's recommended by the manufacturer of SignaLink, then I'd probably be pretty safe with it. I'd feel that pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too, but I just want to be cautious. I don't want to. I'm an anthropologist by training, so I don't know my amps from a hole in the ground.
Yeah. Scott, can maybe I can jump in here?
By all means.
So, Dave, if I'm understanding, you're saying that there's a power pin on the microphone jack of your radio?
I believe that I read that somewhere. Yes,
Okay.
I don't have any way of empirically verifying it.
Yeah, so that basically what would happen is, if worse comes to worse, you'd be putting power into the SignaLink box. That's basically where that would be going. The SignaLink box itself is powered by the USB connection into your computer. And I would agree with Scott that it is probably not going anywhere through that cable to the SignaLink box because they wouldn't need it, and they wouldn't be able to isolate it from the power coming out of the microphone jack.
Okay, good.
My guess would be, as long as you're using the right jumper inside the SignaLink, there's nothing to worry about. There won't be anything connected to that line. The only risk would be if you were wiring your own jumper and you did it wrong, you might tie 12 volts to somewhere that shouldn't be seeing the voltage. But if you use their setup, it should be fine.
Copy. I'm going to use their module. I'm going to try and get it hooked up this week. She and I have actually been able to do simplex point to point from my house to his house. So hopefully we can try a peer-to-peer experiment.
Good, excellent. Okay,
I'm also close to you too. I'm all set up to Winlink, so if you want to do some testing, I'm quite a bit closer.
Yeah, we can try it. Your simplex signals haven't always been real strong here, but we should be able to connect.
Oh, that's right. I was having trouble reaching that one time. Well, let's see. Give it a try.
and as I mentioned, I'm open to setting up, at this point, some type of, Saturday morning, 9 to 11, peer-to-peer, taking my mobile setup and going to some place in Orange County that's a little more reachable to the larger number of people, and we can try to go through peer-to-peer setups, and people, kind of have cell phone in one hand, and trying to work different configurations, and just to try to make sure your radio and hardware setup is working.
I think that would be great. I think we can, hopefully a bunch of us can set up like we did for the simplex exercise and try that out.
Yeah. I think the big issue here is South Orange County, because I think there's a gateway in Fountain Valley that obviously it's out more of a flatter area, so I can go up to a hill and get it, but from South County I don't know if you guys could reach it, so we need to essentially think about some point in South Orange County to kind of set up a temporary peer-to-peer gateway, so to speak, and go through some exercises.
Scott, maybe we can set up a date at a park somewhere, and with separate tables, distancing, etc., just to make it easier to communicate and to troubleshoot, etc.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I also have yellow books for everybody, or I will have, and I would like the opportunity to distribute those.
Yeah, I'm open to that. I didn't know how easy it would be to go mobile. So that's kind of why. But yeah, combination of, if people from home or some local park that's accessible to South Orange County. Now that's a great idea.
Once
Another
we
spot.
Once
Go
we
ahead.
learn a little bit more about how the digipeating works, it might be feasible to have, because I'm pretty sure the digipeaters don't need to be connected to a gateway. I think they're standalone. It might be feasible to have someone have a setup to just take a digipeater and set it up on a high point, one of the parks or whatever, and that might allow, assuming that digipeater can see one of the gateways, that might allow more hospitals to be able to actually get a link through.
Yeah, that you're kind of more addressing maybe more of a longer term solution there. Actually, that's a good segue into one of the OCHEART activities is we're talking about actually putting together a number of permanent Winlink gateways in Orange County to support this need to have more permanent gateways. So I guess, David, you could kind of talk a little more about what's actually what we'll be talking about in a few minutes at Mission Hospital.
Sure, and everybody's welcome to stick around for that. We're doing a site survey at the hospital on Monday to see what we can do about a permanent installation there that would include possibly a repeater, and I'll come back to the repeater issue in a minute, an analog voice repeater, a Winlink gateway, and a mesh node. And we're hoping we can get it on top of Tower 2 at Mission Hospital. The hospital itself is already at about 600 feet of elevation and has a pretty good view to the north. And then the tower is 5 stories, so we'd get some additional elevation on that. And then I think we can probably talk either St. Joseph or UCI into the same setup once we get one working at Mission. And so we would be able to have a gateway in Central County and a gateway in South County, and it should facilitate Winlink communications. So we're going to talk about our objectives for the Monday survey. Fortunately, it came together very, very quickly. Unfortunately, one of the participants is a emergency room doctor who can only do it at 6:30 Monday morning. So it's going to be bright and early. But the good news is we're getting it done, and we're getting it done quickly. And the hospital is very enthusiastic. They didn't flinch at the, and Scott, I put in the try mode. I didn't put in the lower cost option that you had. I just thought we'd go for broke. And they didn't flinch at the cost. I think the total cost of everything that we have specified is about $8,000, and they didn't flinch at that. So one of the guys on the emergency committee is also very active with the hospital foundation. So he would know if it was going to be a problem, and it doesn't seem like it is. So we'll know more on Monday.
Yeah, and then also to address Bob, I'm part of the City of Orange Races organization, and a couple months ago, Ken Bourne's part of OC Races, had in his monthly newsletter, talking about the fact that their gateways are down, encouraged other local city races organizations to set up their own gateways. And so I was able to convince our local City of Orange races organizations to do that. So we're in the process of setting up one at a member's house here in the hills of Tustin. Also, I'm in the process of configuring a mobile tri-mode gateway as well. So I'm hoping, little by nipping around the edges here, we'll slowly start adding more gateways and a little more capability.
Right. And just to clarify, when I mentioned digipeaters, obviously a permanent one would be wonderful. But I was thinking you could also have a mobile radio, which you set to digipete, and just, in an emergency, in an event, get that mobile rig on top of a hill somewhere that can see a gateway and see across much of Orange County, and you would be able to communicate from hospital sites through that mobile repeater to the gateway. That's pretty doable. I think it works the same way as old school packet radio in that way. And if it does, you don't need internet.
I've seen that demonstrated where, somebody is in a valley, can see only one other node, other client, a WinLink client, but then that person can see a gateway. The only slightly issue is that relay station has to be always in a relay mode. It can't be essentially also used as any other client use. It just purely has to be set in essentially full-time relay mode. But that's clearly what that relay capability is to support, is hard to reach areas.
You obviously lose half your speed when that happens because it's storing forward each time.
It's not quite exactly half, but you have a penalty hit in terms of the speed. Yeah.
And then what about the issue of FCC compliance with station identification?
Digipeater's ID.
Yeah, I think you're clear on which station you're communicating with, and I'm sure as part of the repeating process, there's station IDs included. So.
Hey, Dave, did you have a chance to run the idea about them helping out with getting a WinLink up in San Diego? Did you talk to Soar about that?
I did not.
I still think that'd be a really good option if they can get us in the door up there. It takes almost no equipment, no space, no power, almost no power. It seems to me that'd be the ideal setup.
It's on my list to talk to Heiko about it.
Good, because I think that would solve all of our problems.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Chief.
I kind of setting up my WinLink system here, and I think it does have a connection. If anybody want to see it, I can just share the screen real quick. I have a hardware TNC and a Yaesu radio connect and with my computer. So I have several emails set up ready, just do the session and send it out through the radio. That's all.
Okay, we'll give you a couple minutes. Go ahead and share
Okay.
your
Real
screen.
quick, just
Yeah.
just to show it in case if anybody have the same
3 or 4
setup.
minutes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Share screen. I'm going to share my Winlink already set up. I already typed up an email. I'm going to send.
You're gonna post it.
Post. Yeah, too small for me. Right now I have 2 in the outbox. Okay. My setup is real quick. The setting. I'm using the Cantronics. Cantronics 9612 Plus, and then I'm using the COM4 and the speed. I think 1200. Okay, update it, and then if we want to see the channel, let me see. Let me select the channel. I think the channel is working for me. All right, and then let's see. It tests my TNC. You see the check and it's ready.
No, we only see just your main Winlink window.
Okay. Let me go back to Winlink. I mean,
you're gonna have to minimize or show another window.
Yeah. Let me try
Share
to
your whole
get back
desktop.
to
You need to turn your video on.
yeah, the radio is on.
No, your video on your. Do you have video capability?
Yeah, I do. Let me turn it on. But I have to get back to the Zoom. So I kind of this is my new computer. My company just give it to me. So
Chi, while you're doing that, quick question. I noticed that you are maybe you selected the frequency, or you looked up the frequency via the channel selector. Does your setup have a computer or a CAT, meaning it Winlink controls the frequency on the radio?
Yeah, Winlink will control not control the frequency in the radio. You have to set up simplex frequency on your radio, and then you have to select what data port when it's sent. It will using what data port.
Right.
So let me stop sharing here. Okay, and then I'll share again with this screen. Okay, you see. I'll go to setting again. Okay, because it won't show that to everybody. Let's start the session real quick, so you can hear it. Try to make a connection to that station.
You changed the frequency on your radio for that station?
Yes, that's 145.050, right?
It doesn't look like it worked.
Okay, let's stop it, and then let me choose another station. I forgot which one may work. This is the third one. Okay, let's choose this one then. Okay, and then let's start.
Well, you need to change your frequency, don't you?
Yeah, it's the same. I think that's the frequency I use.
Okay.
It's the
Let's
same.
try to connect to that station.
It doesn't look like you're connecting.
Disconnect.
Okay. Well, we generally get the idea here.
Okay.
I mean, if you're just trying different stations for the sake of trying different stations, I don't.
Right.
Okay. Now
This one is connect now. I just have to choose the right station which is working, and then you can hear the data. I mean, the packet going through.
Okay.
That's how it's saying. You can see the top screen here. I mean, the line that go through. So. Okay, so that's done. So that's all. Just want to show everyone. If you haven't seen that, this is how it really works.
Okay, great. Thanks, G.
Okay.
Very good. I've been wanting to see that for several days.
Yeah, I'm sure we're all anxious to see what it's like to see that green bar move across or the red bar moving that you're receiving. Yes. So, okay, I guess that's pretty much ends the tutorial here, tutorial 4. I guess if there's any last minute questions or suggestions.
Where's she located? Is she located in Tustin?
I'm sorry, what?
Where is she located? Is she located in Tustin?
Oh, no, I'm in Westminster.
Okay.
It's a flat land here. So.
All right.
Yeah, right next to Fountain Valley,
Yeah.
Okay.
right next to the gateway.
Cheater.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, has there been any discussion about what modes are going to be supported going forward, whether we use 2-meter packet or VARA on VHF?
I'll talk a little bit about that in tutorial 5. At this point, it's just kind of the crawl walk one. We'll start with packet, and then I'll talk about VARA, and then talk a little bit about HF next time. So I don't know. What I end up doing is I always download my stuff to a thumb drive first. So I always have, so if I end up getting stuck in somebody else's computer, I always have all the software I need on my thumb drive. And then I load it on my computer. Also, Ted, to talk about your initial questions, in tutorial 3, I did talk about the pros and cons of the different encoding options, or packet compared to VARA, compared to RDOP, compared to PACT or others. So just kind of talking about the reasons why you would use different types of encoding.
Got it. Very good.
Okay, I think that pretty much concludes tutorial 4. In 2 weeks from today, we'll be talking about tutorial 5. Be some interesting things there. Hopefully, you guys have got at least a beginning installation going. May not be able to be verified, but then, like I say, so I guess that pretty much concludes the Winlink tutorial. And enjoy Winlinking.
Thank you, Scott.
Excellent presentation. Thank you. And I'm going to try to get we're all connected this week and do some testing. So I would like to do the field exercise as soon as everybody's available.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll start. It sounds like there's definitely an interest in it. So I'll put together some type of little, exercise document describing kind of general parameters of the exercise. So, okay, thanks everyone.